All right. We're here with Ms. Catherine Trotter, and she is with Strategic Collaboration Network LLC, and she hosted an awesome event this weekend that included a digital conference before an actual physical meet and greet and everything out in the DMV, out on the East Coast, and I'm really excited about what she's done. The whole focus was on pivoting your business and moving forward. And I tell you, I mean, the inspiration and the insights and the practical, definitely entrepreneurial information that we received was phenomenal. And I tell you, I'm really excited to introduce Miss Catherine, and I want you to really listen to what she's saying and just really, say hello and say, well, welcome to Well, and tell us about what you're doing there, Catherine.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, Mr. Montgomery, for two things. Thank you for being one of our guest panelists on this past Saturday, and thank you for us having this follow-up conversation. The value that you brought to the table on Saturday, we can't even quantify. So for all of your viewers and watchers that have already worked with him, you know now I know, and now my viewers know that he is a gem, and the wisdom that you brought helped us all to elevate to the next level. Well, I'm Catherine Trotter, as he stated. I am the CEO of Strategic Collaboration Network here in the Maryland area, aka DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia. So what we do, we bring together business professionals both on the nonprofit and for-profit side. We are a hub of business professionals. And one of the clients that I work with, she had just coined a new phrase for me, is that what I do is create connections of purpose. And that's what I do. And kind of like a business matchmaker where I bring entities together, right? So we can achieve our mission collectively. So that way we can have a global impact in our communities and internationally, because we did have a person from Scotland that was on with us sharing his perspective as a business owner. So we had local, we had international. Adama, she's from Impact Sierra Leone. One of the things, Strategic Collaboration Network, we're partnering with her nonprofit. We're going to be going to Sierra Leone in December. They've already got land. They're going to be breaking ground, creating a career development center, and we're going to be going to support their ribbon cutting day. So Strategic Collaboration Network, we're here based here in the States. However, now we are going a little bit beyond our borders, which is a great thing for collaboration. One of the other things that our organization does, we host educational webinars. In addition to that, as he mentioned, he was a part of our virtual business conference. We have live business conferences that we also have done here in Maryland, in the Baltimore County area. We also did a live business conference in Tyson Corner, Virginia. We are, like I said, a hub of education and educators, right? Helping to close the gap where us as business owners, as we're growing, while we're growing, we need the knowledge. And so I believe in bringing skilled individuals to the table from diverse backgrounds, diverse industries. We had people on that was a grant writer, a proposal writer, individuals that is in the DEI space, right? We had individuals that's in the media, public speaking space. It was just a whole gamut of professionals that came together for one purpose, right? And it was no big eyes, no little U's. We were all together, and it was the unity that we felt on Saturday that made it what it was. So what was it called? It was called Unlocked 2025, because we're walking into the season where we are unrestricted, right? So, we have some video footage of each panelist that we're going to be sharing by the end of this week. Is content that's going to transform your life. And then, so again, the overall topic of the conference was Unlock 2025, walking into an unrestricted area of our life, with a caveat topic of pivot, how to pivot as a business owner and keep it moving forward. And we had some interesting opportunity to act that out in real time. I'm gonna just say it that way. And that opportunity, but it also showed me what community meant, what community among business owners meant. We all rallied together as one, and that's my biggest takeaway. We pivoted in real time, we encouraged one another, we dropped knowledge and wisdom, but it was also community.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. And you personified it very, very excellently. I mean, it couldn't have, we hope when we plan and do events that nothing ever goes wrong, because it's so much work that goes into it and everything. But the fact that you were able to pivot so well, and you had so many micro pivots even through the whole day was fantastic, because you moderated it at such a high level. My question my question, and you actually started tapping in on my question and a whole lot more. And one thing about it is building in these diverse spaces, we do have to, stay focused on a reality that Black owned businesses, have a lot that has to get done with inside of Black owned businesses in order to really, participate even broader in our diverse spaces even.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, how do we best develop some real connective tissue between Black owned businesses to feed each other?
Mm-hmm.
So basically developing that connective tissue between Black owned, because as we sat there and I listened to every different speaker and everything, my first thought as I recapped and everything was, okay, now how am I going to connect with, because I'm always doing this. Every
Mm-hmm.
function that we've had over the past 5 years and everything is like, okay, now how do we, how do I connect, different people? Because my whole thing is to find and make connections for people in their businesses and bring value. And we've done that actually. We've had, some pretty interesting success stories that came out of these functions that we've had over the past few years. But I know that it's very hard to
Mm-hmm.
get the connective tissue between Black owned businesses, mostly because of the types of Black owned businesses that we have, and what they provide, whether it's goods or services, and how people need them or don't need them, what have you. But even the reality of it is everybody has their lane, and there is connective tissue between each one of us.
Mm-hmm.
I do strongly feel that, but finding it and developing it, and really
Mm-hmm.
intentionally, and that's literally what you're doing is
Mm-hmm.
you've created a hub, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to help develop that connective tissue. But if you can't speak on that, developing
Yeah.
that connective tissue a little bit more.
I think one, as the individual business owner, they got to get clear on what their specific products, services are before they can even attempt to try to collaborate or connect. Because sometimes, and we all go to networking spaces, and sometimes we feel like a fish out of a water. Like, who should I connect with? Who's the best person I should connect with? Before you go to any space, sit with yourself as a business owner, get clear on who you are as the individual CEO of the company, get clear on your products and services. What is the mission of the company, right? Because if you're not clear on your products and services, if you're not clear on your mission, when you start to try to expand and go out and meet people, you're not going to make the healthy connections because you're going to just connect to everybody, right? So I say sit with self first and figure out what you are and what is that unique thing about you. I recently have really taken on, I'm a business matchmaker. I match business owners together. That is what I love to do, right? I connect people purposefully. I don't just connect people for the sake of connecting. And when you kind of understand, and then I learned this also, when people start telling you who you are and start saying, no, you are a connector of purpose, that beyond what you say, what are people saying about you and your brand, right? Because that also gives you an indication. This is your signature. This is your brand. This is your stamp of approval, right? Within your target audience, within your target community. And then you're going to be able to find yourself uniquely connecting with the right people that you should. There's so many different networks. Like, my network isn't the end all and be all. There's so many other networking groups out there. Mine's might not be the right fit. It may be another one for yours. And I'm totally cool with that. And I think when we have that mindset, like, look, there is a space within strategic collaboration network for business owners, and they're going to mesh with me, they're going to mesh with everyone in the network. But then there are other networks out there that may speak something different, that connects with someone else. But the only way you're going to know who you should connect with, if you have to take time and sit with self first. And you got to have clear, defined goals of what your intentions are. And don't be afraid to have to update it. I'm constantly updating and refreshing my end goal, or my strategies, and what am I shooting for, and fine tuning who I am. As you begin to fine tune who you are, I think of something just popped in my head. When a car needs a tune up, right? When a car needs a tune up, it's for a reason. It's so the car can continue to run smoothly. Sometimes we're not tuning up our businesses, and sometimes that's why our businesses are not running smoothly, and we're just connecting with everybody and things is just haywire, right? Our business is not healthy. So I think once you sit with self first, identify your goals, identify your action steps, identify what industry you're in. Because sometimes it's like a buffet that we all know. We like buffets. You got all the food in front of you. You got all these options. our business, sometimes we run in our business like a buffet. It's just too many things. It's just too many things. We need to narrow down. And I'm not saying it only has to be one thing, or you may have multiple talents within you. It's how you layer those talents though, right? It's how you interconnect. That's another thing. Not only interconnecting with other people, how are you interconnecting within yourself and your talents and abilities? So when you do present yourself, you're presenting yourself to the right market, right? And I think that's so key and important, because for a while, we all have fumble phases of our life. I've had fumble phases trying to figure it out. And I always have the right healthy connections? No. But once I started fine tuning who I am in personal development and reading books and understanding, okay, I'm a business matchmaker. Okay, I connect people with purpose. I'm not just throwing events just to throw events. That is what sets me apart. And this is what people are starting to say to me. Even from the networking event that we had in person on Saturday, it was like, I like coming to your events because it's just a certain vibe. It's just a certain energy of connection, right? And so that is the atmosphere that I create. So people know what they're going to get when they come. And you create that slight edge, right? You might be listening to this and you might be saying you're in a state and like, I want to host networking events. Do it. Don't let it stop you because someone else is hosting it. You create that atmosphere that people are gonna love, right? I've never been one to say, well, I'm doing it, nobody else can do it. No, we all got gifts and talents. And we all, at the end of the day, got a purpose to fill in this earth, and we got to do it, right? We got to do it. So I think in order to make those healthy exchanges, we got to first understand who we are and understand our business model, right? And then when we start to have those conversations, as healthy conversations, and we're not scattered and all over the place.
Exactly, exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. You've covered a lot of points that, as I've worked with people over the past several years, we've had a lot of these discussions. And one thing I love to see you doing, you've developed a forward moving. I'm big on moving forward, moving forward, moving forward. And you've developed a forward movement that's actually, poised for a time like now. And then even as I reflect back on, a lot of the conversations and a lot of the speakers from this weekend, you know, and here's the thing, every single solitary speaker had nothing but value added, different, diverse pieces. And I'm big on supply chain. I'm looking at, from the beginning to the end of a supply chain. I'm big on, supply chain management. That's, what I do. And every single different piece. It was like every department. It was like if it was one corporation, these are all these different departments, which are all necessary in order to actually grow a very big conglomerate business and everything. And I'm like, this is the value. The value here is paramount. And everybody was speaking very matter of factly, especially from their specific point of view. And it flowed so masterfully. But you wove it all together and you moderated between each and every one of it. It was literally like watching you sewing a sweater or something like that. And that right there, is connecting that connective tissue. And as we grow forward and develop, these connections and everything, one big thing that I'm big on is fostering and taking care of those things. So I connect with you, as a business connection. My whole thing is not just what I can get, but man, how can I, take care of you? How can I, safeguard, your connection, what you're doing. So when I'm in other rooms, I'm not, you know, well, I would connect you to this one person, but they really don't know what they. I'm not doing that. Right. I'm not doing that. If I feel like that, I won't bring it up. If I feel like that, I won't even. I deal with people, and that's one of the, it's a up and it's a down. It's one of the greatest, the people that I'm closest to that we really do a lot of work. We have one, habit. We expect the best out of everybody, and we accept second chances, third chances, fourth chances from a lot of people, even when most people wouldn't. And we've had to, and we still do, because God has created us for a purpose like this. But now what that means we can't be in mass public, because we're gonna try to make the best for everybody. We're gonna always try to make the best for everybody, and that's not always gonna work out well, because takers are always gonna take, because givers are always gonna give. And then takers gonna take until there's nothing else to take, and then they'll kill that one, and then they'll go on to the next one and kill that next one. The reality of it is, though, is it's imperative that those strong ones, don't die. And that's the whole
Mhm.
thing. My father, he passed away last year. He was almost 87. But what he
Mhm.
showed and revealed to me,
Mhm.
not only in just real life, but he even documented it, in his autobiography and everything.
Mhm.
Because I asked him to, some years ago, and he
Mhm.
actually wrote his autobiography. But he showed me lifelong learning,
Mhm.
lifelong learning, and he would say to me, Robert, because he called me Robert my whole life. He named me James Robert Montgomery,
Mhm.
after my grandfather. But my mother, they always call me Robert. Everybody in my family called me Robert, and for the longest time, I've gone by James in my adult life. And I'm just now getting back to people calling me Robert. So whenever somebody calls me Robert,
Mhm.
it feels very comforting because it doesn't happen that often. But
Mhm.
he would say to me, "I need you to think bigger. I need you to open up your mind more." I'm like, "My mind's already open. Here I am.
Mhm.
But I need you to open up your mind. These are, even in his last days. I need you to see bigger. I need you to open your
Mhm.
mind more. I need you to see further. But he demonstrated lifelong learning all the way until his last days. He was learning. I mean, when he was 85, he was planning on, I think I'm gonna go ahead and get my PhD because he had his bachelor's, had his master's. I tell people he had more degrees than a stove, right? You know, and he was like, I'm gonna go get my PhD. I'm saying 85, 86 years old. That was, he was still planning. He was
Yeah.
still growing. He's still learning. And to this day, even a year and a couple months later since he passed, he was still further ahead than everybody else. I mean, we have conversations back in 2023 that's still bearing fruit right now. I mean, we
Mhm.
we we discuss what I'm doing and what Montgomery 2320 is doing, and what my business are doing. Then we discuss, he's like, we talk about hosting events and so forth.
Mhm.
He was like, I love what you're doing with bringing the people together. You got to keep bringing the people together. I mean, I'm still working off the plan that he drew out. I mean,
Wow.
today. And the reality of it is, I didn't think I had to grow. He made he opened my mind up to the point to where, and we would have discourses on a regular basis. I mean, he was my mentor,
Mhm.
and the conversations were always high level. See, he didn't. What's the old saying? He didn't suffer fools. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? He didn't suffer fools or foolishness. And so every conversation was a high level conversation. As we're moving forward now, it's that moving forward piece. That's, I said all that to say the moving forward and this continual moving forward piece. That's why I'm really encouraged by what you're doing and what you're bringing. And as now, what do we see in, because time is really flying,
Yeah.
and nobody, and this is one thing that's interesting. This is why this is a leveling. This is actually the best time for us because no one can really see by 2030.
Mhm.
Nobody really, that 5 year vision, even at the
Mhm.
highest levels, they're like, we can't tell you what's going to happen in 5 years. Like,
Mhm.
really?
Mhm.
Okay, if that's the case, we got, this is our time to really, if you're down there, whether it's black owned businesses, diverse, whether it's minority, whatever it is, this is that time that we have, to really get in and shape
Mhm.
our forward path and everything.
Mhm.
As you're making connections and talking to people, are you having these kind of conversations with people? What other conversations
Yeah,
like?
like what's coming down the road the next couple of years?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's always especially when I'm coaching my clients one on one. That's one of the top questions. Where do you see your business 3, 5 years down the road? In fact, sometimes I say, where do you see yourself 10 years down the road? Because a lot of times, if we're not projecting out long term, we're getting stuck and we don't have a plan. I'm big, of course, the name of the company is Strategic Collaboration Network. Everything I do is about strategy. Even for myself, it's about strategy. I have talks with myself like, where am I going to be in the next couple of years? Where am I going to be 10 years from now? Right now my focus is really building out the team, right? I don't need to keep all the knowledge to myself. So, and that's a learning curve when you're onboarding new people and training, and that's a whole nother dynamic, right? And so, but it's the next dimension that I need to be stretched in. And in being in stretching that, I see years down the road, right? Other individuals being able to be the facilitators. I don't want to be the only facilitator. I want to be able to be duplicatable, right? That's what I see. And this is what I also teach other people. When you're thinking about years down the road, how can you duplicate yourself? How can your business be duplicatable, right? And I heard many times, I'm probably sure you and others have heard, like when you build your business, you should really be working yourself out of that position, whatever that initial, because if you're still doing the same thing and it's 10 years down the road, why are you still in the same position? Did no one else grow up in your company? Did no one else level up in your company? Like, it shouldn't just still be you in the same position. And so I don't desire to be in the same position down the road. I tell people, don't be in the same position. Same thing with nonprofits. Sometimes it's the same people in the same, and there's no new blood, no fresh faces, it's just the same thing. So I think in order to keep a business vibrant, you have to bring new perspectives to the table, new ideas to the table. And of course, in that time frame, you can't just bring anybody in your company. You vet them. It's a vetting process, of course, right? But that's why you go through the stages as you bring people on board and onboard them, have an onboarding process. And that in of itself takes time to create your. I'm in the middle of that. That's why I'm speaking so much about it, because I'm in the middle of creating my onboarding process as I bring on other facilitators, as I bring on other collaborative partners. What does that look like? How's it going to form itself? But I think if you just stay in the state of it's just me and no one else, you're going to limit yourself. Now that's cool if you don't desire to build beyond that. But I'm in a phase now where I'm pushing myself, right? I wear a lot of hats. I'm literally wearing one. I can wear a lot of hats, but am I going to be effective in the season that I'm going into? I said to myself, for me to be effective in this new season, I need to build a team. So that way, I can start majoring in some other areas and minoring in some other ones that I might have been minoring in years before, but now that needs to be that might have been a major for me yet last year, but now it needs to be a minor, and I need to major in some other areas. And I think that's so important as business owners, understanding your major and your minor and knowing the season when it's time to shift.
Yeah. One question I've asked, we talk about vetting, and over the past several years, I've done a lot of vetting, a lot of interviewing people for a lot of things, and a lot of interesting things that bore out of that. But one of the common questions that I ask everybody, and I ask you this as well, is, and because I realized this years ago myself, and I had to answer this question myself, actually 10 years ago. I had to answer this question for myself and put it on paper. I wrote it down on paper, and I still live by it today. But the question is, what is your goal for your life, for you? What is your life goal? What is your fundamental life goal? And I tell you what mine is. Just kind of giving that. My fundamental life is two. It's 1 and 2, just in that order, 1 and 2. But first one is glorify God in everything that I do. Second one is provide for my family. Now I put it on paper. I put those. That's my goal for my life. Period. End of story. It's done. And since then, everything that I've done has been led by that and has been tested. And because it's not, those ain't small goals, obviously. So now they got to be tested, and they've been tested, and they've been tested, and they're still being tested. And Lord, oh my goodness, oh boy, they're being tested. But those are my life goals. So what is your life goal for your life?
I really feel like I am a bridge. I'm a bridge. I grew up in church, and I feel like I'm a bridge even within the ministry as it relates to community. Because sometimes it's a disconnect with the four walls in a traditional setting and community and business. It's so even in spaces such as what we had on Saturday, I'm a believer, but I have to know how to have the dialogue where we're all one, and I'm a bridge, and God uses me to know how to bridge all those pieces together. And so I see myself, my purpose in my life is a bridge, and being that person. I don't have to always say, hey, I'm born and raised in church. I have to just be it, you know. And but I am a bridge. I see myself as a bridge. And being that to much is given, much is required, that comes sometimes with a heavy weight, and understanding that sometimes, being that bridge is a lot of sacrifice of self, sacrifice of things I would want to do. But I know I need to make sure my mind is right. Like anytime before a big event, I try my best not to do nothing heavy before that, because I never know who I'm going to speak to. I need to be in the right mindset, whether I'm speaking, whether I'm the host, or trying to, whatever space that might be. You got to have a certain energy to keep the momentum together. And so my life purpose, I just pray to God, even before any event, whatever event it might be, and it doesn't just have to be a church event, it could be a business event, whatever, that I be a bridge, right? And I know how to bring everyone together as that bridge, and showing the love. Because again, so many, I've been through different things within the body, within church. And, some people have walked away from church because they didn't feel the love. It's a lot of titles and positions and, oh, I've been in church all my life, but then where's the love? And so for me, when I'm in spaces, I may not drop a lot of scriptures. I may not, say, but I exhibit the love, and that's what's on me in any space that I go to, and anything that I do, is I just be that person. And in being that, individuals will act naturally, conversations will lead into, my faith, naturally, and organically. And so that's kind of like my purpose in life. I want to be the bridge. I have a deep love for God. And I know a lot of people say, I've heard people say, oh, people just don't want God. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I believe people have been serving God on a trash lid, right? And it's how he's been served to people. And so I am that bridge.
I'll tell you what, when you said that you're a bridge, it created a picture in my mind of, how strong a bridge has to be.
Mm.
What all comes over a bridge, and we think about, bridges. Think about like the bridge out there in Baltimore, that got run into. What
Yeah.
I'm saying, last year, and how strong that bridge had to be in order to even withstand. It got damaged, but then it's able to get rebuilt and everything. But how much weight it carries every single day. That's dynamic. To be a bridge is you have to carry all of the weight of whatever comes. You don't get to tell the weight what it is before it comes over. But sometimes they got a sign above it. It can only take this much weight or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
they take so much on a day-to-day basis, and people don't think about the bridge. They just
Mm-hmm.
cross over it. They just run back and forth over it all day and every day. So that's dynamic. What I mean? So, but what that does for me, that paints a picture for me now, that when I'm talking to people, and I'm talking, I see a use for everybody's business. I'm really focused on business. I see a use for everybody's business, but now it's about intentionally, okay, let's finding that use. This is supply chain. It's supply chain. Finding that use. That use is always there. It's always open. You as a bridge, that's huge. That means a lot of people can be directed towards Catherine. Because she's going to lead them to this other side of the river. That's huge. That's very huge, and I definitely appreciate it, and that gives me a picture to paint. But one thing that we have to do going forward, and this is, I'm talking to people on a regular basis, and there's a lot of fear. People have, and it's not. I didn't personally know it. I had to understand back to understanding oneself. I go into spaces. I don't think about fear as other people think about fear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but one thing that I saw years ago when I had my office down in Indianapolis was we have engagements. I mean, we had hundreds of engagements. And here's the thing: when I started my business, all I wanted to do was sell a sandwich. That was it. That was the business. I wanted to sell a sandwich, maybe some chips and a soda,
Mm-hmm.
quality food. That was the whole point, back
That
in
was it.
2016. That was it, and going this path, and God had other plans for me and everything. So by the time I had opened up that office in the co-working space and everything, I started, having people come down. I wanted to talk about food initially, but in the environment though, we're always going to glorify God. We're always going to people first. Come in, let's have. We would fellowship. We'd have conversations. We do everything but sell. But sell. I didn't sell one sandwich out of there. We had hundreds
Okay.
of engagements. We built hundreds of intersection. We did a whole lot of things. I mean, it was phenomenal the whole time. Didn't
Mm-hmm.
sell one sandwich, but we built a whole network. We built a whole
Mm-hmm.
network, and other businesses were birthed out of it. And the sandwich is still on the table. Now
Yeah.
we have an e-commerce store that sells quality products and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But what was born out of it was the connectivity with the people. But I started seeing something though, fear that I wasn't aware of. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't aware that people are so afraid to come out, and talk, especially Black people in the Black community. Because I'm just, I'll talk like this in every environment. It's just me talking
Mm-hmm.
like this. When Black people would come into my environment and everything, and then we're having a conversation and everything, and then if somebody walks by the office or something, they start talking. Oh, they start, the voice goes down. I'm like, like, why are you talking quiet?
Mm-hmm.
We having a conversation. But you know, I'm like, where'd this come from? I was oblivious to it before. That's just because that's how God constructed me. It's not because it wasn't there before. I
Mm-hmm.
just had paid no attention to it because
Mm-hmm.
it was out here in the world. But when it's in my space, in my confines, I'm talking like I'm talking now, regardless of, I pay to be here. If I'm talking like this at the beginning, I'm gonna talk like this at the end. It just
Mm-hmm.
is what it is. But I started noticing not one time, not two times, not three times, not four times. I mean, it happened a lot to the point
Mm-hmm.
where I was like, oh, I didn't realize. Oh, I'm like, wow. I'm like, oh, okay. So now I'm feeling bad. So I'm putting people in positions now that they're not comfortable, And I'm like, oh, that's not my intention. That's not
Mm-hmm.
my intention to put you in a position where you're not comfortable. But the reality of it is that's something that we have to, in the business space, we don't have the luxury
Mm-hmm.
of, you know, diminishing ourselves, and we want to grow our business. We want to say we're going to grow, but now we're diminishing ourselves. You can't start whispering and expect to grow your business. You have to whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk like this,
Now
if you
that's a
talk like
word
this,
right there.
yeah, I mean, and that's the reality. If you talk like this, well, the world better see it because they got to choose you or not choose you. They're going to choose you or not choose you. And
Mm-hmm.
what happened was people, even people close to you, people that love you, they don't know how to sell you to people, so your business
Mm-hmm.
doesn't flourish because
Mm-hmm.
they're like, well, he gonna come off like this, and I don't want people to think like this. Like, here's the reality. If people around you that you come in contact with won't sell you to other people, well, that kills
Mm-hmm.
word of mouth. You don't even get that at all. And
Mm-hmm.
now you're alienating people with just by you doing what you're supposed to be doing, the right thing and being you, but you're alienating people because you're already segmented in a culture, and so people don't want to come around it. But this is a stigma that we have to break off of
Mm-hmm.
in black business for sure. We don't have the luxury of diminishing ourselves and keeping and whispering our message. Your message ain't going to get out there. I can't.
Whisper your
I,
message. That
the
right
thing
there.
the thing that scared me the most is I realized there would be events that would occur right when I'm not there, but there would be other
Mm-hmm.
events, especially like in Indianapolis. There'd be 5, 10 people in that room that all know me, all know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing, and in that room, I'll never get mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never get mentioned in that business environment. I'll never get mentioned. My business will never get mentioned in
Mm-hmm.
that room where all of it'd be one. But can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
It'd be one person knew me, but when 5 or 10 people in that same room
Mm-hmm.
know me, and I'm like, and these again, I'm like, so nobody said anything.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody said anything. No, not one time, not two times, not three times. But I had to come and find out. People are afraid to communicate with me. People are afraid, communicate about my business because first of all, we're glorifying God all day, and that people said, you talk about Jesus way too much. I don't know what else to do, but the reality of it was they had a hard time selling that to people that they knew. Which don't sell that. I'm trying to sell the sandwich. Sell the sandwich. Don't
Mm-hmm.
the purpose of the purpose is going to be there, but
Mm-hmm.
sell the sandwich. Sell the sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality of it is when we're black, people have to find a way to sell us to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Sell our businesses to other people, and that's just a stigma. It's bad in the black community, white community. Everybody has to. How can I sell this business as opposed to just hey? My whole thing is, I'm a black-owned business, but hey, I sell to everybody. The face
Mm-hmm.
of my business is, it's not just black. My face of my business is my business. It's
Mm-hmm.
the I'm gonna use the sandwich. It's the sandwich. What I'm saying? The sandwich ain't black or white. What I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? It's brown with a little bit of green on there with the lettuce, with the, orange and tomato, whatever. But it's
Mm-hmm.
not black or white,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the problem we have, that it's a stigma that's set upon us as black-owned businesses that we have to, in order to break from it,
Mm-hmm.
every single black-owned business has to not diminish our voice when we go wherever we go. The business, back to the business and clarifying the message. This is the business. If I sell,
Business to business. And
if I
also staying consistent.
consistent, this is the business here, there, and everywhere. Everywhere. So that way it has a clarified message that's easy for people to sell and digest. But we have to do it with an understanding. I am black. I am black, And in order for people to sell me to other people, I don't know how we do this going forward. I guess it's not
So,
question.
I mean, my thing with me, like 95% of all of my clients are word of mouth. I don't do, I'm gonna start going doing all these ads and things like that to get leads. People talk about leads. I've never had to buy leads. 95% of all of my clients is warm market. People are always telling them about my products and services. So that's an area that I haven't had a problem with. It's because I have remained consistent, and it's how I treat people, because how you treat people is a part of your brand, right? And do I deliver when I say I'm gonna deliver? Do I get the job done when I say I'm gonna get the job? And if there is a monkey wrench, am I communicating, or did I just go MIA? Right? It's all of those things, so like I know, yes, I am a Black woman, I have a business, and I'm a Black woman. um um in the reality of society, yes, there's a lot of racism that still exists. That is a reality. But the thing for me, I cannot allow that to be um a hindrance. And I'm saying this, and I'm not going to use any names, but there was a situation with even my organization on my nonprofit side, where we were getting some funds from a institution, and it was dealing with an African American committee, Black, us. They were the ones holding up the funds, but then it was someone that wasn't looking like us that said, wait a minute, this isn't right. So again, I have a different perspective. I look at a person for who they are, and if they come to me with something that's ill, then I deal with them accordingly. But I don't just do a blanket, everybody is, because I've had different experiences. And so again, I have a business and I'm a Black woman. I have a business and I'm a Black woman. And so my business is for all people. I'm a Black woman, African American. I know is some people say don't say Black, some people say African American. However somebody embrace it, right? I am a woman of color. That's another thing. And again, I can't get caught up in the making sure I'm using all the terminology right, because terms, people, if one thing is cool this minute, it's not cool the next minute. I've never been one that's in the cool circle or the hip circle. I create my own circle. I create my own lane. That's always been me from a child. I create my own lane. So for business owners that's watching, create your own lane, right? And that's what I say. But more importantly, when you remain consistent, because people ask me all the time, how do you make these moves? How did you make these connections? I didn't grow up in being connected and being in the who's who circle. I did not. My consistency is what's opening these doors. I didn't grow up with money. My father started a cleaning business, and I mentioned that on Saturday, and we did okay, right? But it's not like he came into money and started a business. Like everything was start up from the ground up, right? And so, but I learned from my father about consistency. He would say in the morning, I mentioned it on Saturday, I'm about to go out and drum up some business. And although I may not use those exact words, I use that same philosophy. I'm about to go out and drum up some business, and I'm going to remain consistent. So like I said, when you do right and you be consistent and you treat your clients right, they are going to tell people. I've had clients that just started with me day one, haven't even finished any work, and they ready to already refer people to me because how they felt after that first experience. See, I give people experiences. I'm not just a consultant. I'm not just a business strategist. I give people experiences. And when people get experiences, they will tell you, won't have to worry about referrals. I've never bought a referral. I'm going to start doing ads or whatever, but because that can only level things up. But I haven't had to. So who you are is a referral. Who you are being is a referral. You will beget more people when you treat people right. It's the fundamentals, right? But I think, like I said, people, just be who you are authentically, be consistent, do good work. See, these are the fundamentals that's going to get you business. Be who you are authentically, do good work, stick to timelines. When you say you're going to get something done, get it done, and you're going to get more business. It's no magic. And I always tell people that people are like, well, how did you get this connection? I'm consistent. That is my key. That is the key that unlocks the doors, your consistency.
That is it. And I'll tell you, as we wrap up, one of the interesting things, talk about connective tissue. My father started the cleaners in Colorado Springs, called it JNR. He named it after me. Back in I think about 1982. A dry cleaning service. So talk about connective tissue. Having that experience from bottom up. And those experiences, that entrepreneur spirit flows through. And here's an interesting thing as we wrap up. We really have to open up our eyes and even look back and see. We have plenty of examples. We have, plenty of real life examples of some dynamic entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial spirit that we can tap into. But we have to open our eyes up and actually see and really start to really understand and study our history and everything and going forward. And everything you just described is spot on. Consistency, that's the magic sauce. That consistency and being your brand and being authentically you and showing up and keeping those times. I tell you what, you just laid it out. I tell you what, I'm very excited.
That's the secret sauce. Everyone, the secret sauce is, to me, it's just the fundamentals. It's the basics. Everything else is just icing on the cake. Everything else is just dressed up, but you do good work, you be consistent, you give people an experience, you can always have business.
Exactly. Well, we're going to wrap up here. Hold on for one moment and before we disconnect here.